going on, guys? Evan the Dark Souls enthusiast here, bringing you another Dark Souls gameplay commentary on the PC. This is going to be Prepare to Die Edition gameplay commentary, a continuation of my Gearing Your Character series where I show players how to get a variety of items that are useful both in the beginning of the game, middle of the game, and the end of the game, depending on the upload. The description in these videos will give you quick links to the various parts where you can find a specific item. So if you came here looking for only one of the items listed in the description, that's no problem. You can actually defer to the description at the bottom of the videos. I've been trying to increase the quality of these uploads in that this Gearing Your Character series, sometimes I get a lot of gear in each upload because I get items that are grouped in similar locations all at one time because there's no point in running back to Firelink between journeys. So maybe if I do like hyperlinks in the description to video segments, it'll make it easier for people to find the items they need. Also, I've been toying around with my recording settings here. This is probably the third take of this commentary due to audio recording problems. The first recording was actually recorded with my wrong microphone because Windows mysteriously keeps changing my sound device every time I restart. So, got that fixed now by playing with command prompt and things like that. But pretty frustrating. So I really like the first take. The second take, I was just so irritated by the first take that the second take was kind of wrecked because I was just in a bad mood. And now I've been playing with my gain settings and doing multiple sound tests, trying to get these about where I want it, and I'm pretty comfortable with where the microphone is set now, so we're going to jump into the actual gameplay commentary here. And we'll talk about some things not related to gameplay, because this is, I think it's about an hour and 7-minute video, so it could be a long time to talk about just Dark Souls. But I did want to go ahead and tell everyone why this series might be useful to you. First off, it's some pretty decent gameplay. I do take down the bosses as I play, bring down any bosses I encounter, and I do so with minimal deaths. These are pretty clean runs, and if there are some mistakes, I usually edit them out, and I verbalize, give instructions on how to get each item during the video. So if you're looking to gear a new character quickly, because that's kind of what these commentaries are designed to do, is help players get the kind of items they want early game. Sometimes earlier than they should, like the next upload will be, for example, acquiring an elemental weapon, before you even reach Sen's Fortress, because for most people, the first elemental weapon they'll acquire is in Sen's Fortress, where they'll get the lightning spear. This is going to be like, how to get a chaos weapon before that. So basically in synopsis, this is how to get particular items early and painlessly, and you'll see me trading here with Stugly the Crow. I'm not going to give an exhaustive list of all the different items you can trade to him, but I traded my Pyromancy's Flame for a large fire Titanite chunk. That way I could make a chaos weapon earlier in the game. You can farm those. You can't actually, you can't really farm Pyromancy Flames, but you can farm the Titanite chunks. So in some ways it could be considered a sort of a bad trade with Snuggly there, but you can get multiple Pyromancy Flames. You can really only equip one, and since the patch of Prepare to Die, there's no real reason to have more than one unless you're like dual wielding Pyromancy Flames, which is sort of fun but more of a gimmicky thing to do. So the reason you come to the Undead Asylum early game is for a variety of reasons, particularly for gearing your character, because killing Knight Oscar here from the start of the game, I believe is his name, bringing him down will give you the Crest Shield, which is definitely a solid in-game choice for a shield with its full magic resist. And it's even a great PvP shield because it's light and it parries and it has enough stability to take a couple hits. So as long as you're backpedaling with your shield up, it's got more than enough stability. The thing about shields are, like great shields and stuff like that are neat, but I usually find that having shields that strong are just relatively pointless, because if you're backpedaling with your shield, which isn't really the ideal strategy, you want to be as aggressive as possible, which is something I struggle with. But if you're on the defensive with your shield, Crest Shield is more than strong to let you move in under protection or to back up under protection. Furthermore, with these new spells being added to Dark Souls, having magic resistance is actually really relevant, because I've run into a lot of players spamming those new spells with, Crystal Soul Spears behind them that just instant kill me. So blocking with the Crest Shield is becoming more and more relevant, I think, and since they patched the original Dark Souls, and then the Hollowed Soldier Shield wasn't the indisputed best shield in Dark Souls, it's kind of changed things up. And up ahead here we have a pretty exciting encounter with the Vagrant. For those of you that don't know, Vagrants are enemies that spawn when players leave items, like they drop an item and just leave it there. then a vagrant will eventually spawn and invade somebody else's world. There's really no advantage to creating vagrants other than someone like me might get to see one, and they're pretty neat. I believe this is the second vagrant I've seen in all of my 9 playthroughs of Dark Souls, or probably more than 9. I have a lot of half-finished playthroughs and a lot of finished playthroughs, but in synopsis, these are very rare. I hardly ever encounter vagrants. There's nothing really great about them. You don't get any special items. It's sort of just a rare setting. Much like for the Elder Scrolls veterans out there, sometimes there were really rare enemies that would spawn, like a level 99 werewolf that could spawn like out in Solstein, out in like Elder Scrolls Morrowind on the expansion. So provides a cool challenge for your character, but nothing really exciting about them. Get a free Twin Humanities. To my knowledge, they always drop a Twin Humanities, and I don't know if their strength is dependent on the strength of the item dropped. I don't think so. But either way, that was a vagrant for those of you that have ever seen one. I was pretty excited to encounter one, and you see me do some fail parries there. At this point in the uploads, we're still using the Drake's Sword. While these are all viewable as independent videos, they also kind of build on each other. So I'll get the gear for the next video in this video, if that makes sense. So I'll be using the Drake's Sword until in one of these videos I upgrade to a different weapon, is basically what I'm saying. So if you come into one of these videos like mid-series and you're like, man, how does he have all that gear? You can just defer back to the previous videos. I should probably give everyone a quick outline of the items we're going to get in this gameplay commentary. These are all down in the description, but I'll go ahead and give them to you now in case you're just wondering. We already acquired the Crest Shield. We're going to get a Titanite Slab. We're going to trade with the Crow for some early game goodness. We're going to fight the Moonlight Butterfly. We're going to show players how to farm the forest. Won't be that great of a farm, but I'll show people how to farm the forest for souls if you need quick souls. We're going to get Ferris's bow and hat. We're going to get random items from the forest. We're going to get the Enchanted Ember and the Stone Giant armor. Stone Guardian armor, excuse me. The Hornet's Ring without fighting Sif. Then we're going to fight Sif. Then we're going to make a Divine Weapon. Then we're going to use the back door into Blight Town in order to acquire the Crimson Set and the Darkwood Grain Ring. That will pretty much conclude this gameplay commentary. Then the next one, of course, will fight Chaos Witch and grab the next Ember, etc., etc. So just working on getting a character geared. By the end of this series, a player should have essentially everything they can acquire of value in a standard playthrough. I have other uploads that show a walkthrough of where to find pretty much every item in every area, but I wasn't looking to do that again on Prepare to Die, and I did want to do something a little different, and I thought maybe setting up a series about gearing your dude would be pretty cool, so that's where we are. This series is still new to the channel. It's not one of my standing series. It's a new innovation, so if anyone has some feedback on what they'd like to see, what they think could be done better, I've always been open to creative criticism. So that's probably enough background on the actual series. Excuse me. We'll fight the Undead Asylum boss here that everyone's fight. Probably one of my least favorite things about Dark Souls is some of the bosses, and one of my most favorite things about Dark Souls is some of the bosses, because some of the bosses are just really boring to fight. Like, I really don't enjoy fighting Dark Sun Gwendolyn. I really do not enjoy fighting all the different variations of the Asylum demon, and there are plenty. I think the rest of them I pretty much enjoy. I enjoy fighting the rest of the bosses. Yeah. Usually the boss fights are more enjoyable to me than actually going through some of the areas, because some of the areas in this game are just downright obnoxious, and I've talked about that before. But Crystal Cave is obnoxious. Of course, Blight Town is obnoxious. I'm interested to see how framey it'll get on the PC. During this commentary, I take the back door down to Blight Town and avoid most of the frame rate issues, so we'll see how framey it gets when I go the conventional way off camera. In any case, fighting Stray Demon here, there's really no trick to it other than just stay behind him. That and be aggressive. The longer you take to peck away at his life, the longer this fight can take, and the more chances there are for you to make a mistake. It's kind of a balancing act. I talked about this in my other Stray Demon upload, but in general, when fighting bosses in this game, I think that there's a fine line between playing too defensively and not playing defensively enough. Because some of these bosses are in a position to one or two shot you, particularly bosses like this that do a ton of damage, and you're probably not leveled to the point you should be fighting them. But At the same time, if you're so careful that you only get like one or two sword or spear swipes and then you run away, it just makes the fight really long. It's safe, but it makes the fight really, really long, and as a result, you can be stuck playing Dark Souls for a long, long time, and that's not a bad thing unto itself, except for the fact that every second you spend in these boss battles just increases the chances you'll do a bad roll or get stuck on a wall or something and get basically instant killed and have to have wasted all that time. At least if you live fast and die young, you can start over and try again. You get infinite rerolls in life. So I recommend going hard on these bosses. Just go for it as much as you can, but just don't go so fast that you get yourself killed. The Souls series has always rewarded patience, timing, and practice. But at the same time, outright cowardice does not lead to skill or easy, quick boss battles. So be aggressive, be confident, but be careful at the same time. And I think that's pretty much true for every boss, except for some of the bosses that have like unique mechanics. Like to a point with Gwendolyn, you just kind of have to play his game of rush in, get 3 swipes, he teleports out. Sort of a really boring boss battle, but I think it's sort of a gimmick boss fight in that it wasn't intended to be, a big thing. Obviously, the big boss fight of this game is Ornstein and Smog, which is my personal favorite in the game. It's such a rush. Now, at this point, I've got him down pretty good, but when I first started playing, that boss fight was such a rush, especially because it was so hyped online. I game over to Ornstein and Smog probably 3 or 4 times before I brought him down, and I was still using the Lightning Spear at the time, which was a mistake. Of course, that was also back before the patch, and the patch changed a lot of things. It made some things a lot harder and some things a lot easier. Drop rates got better post-patch, so that was nice to help you get geared and stuff like that, but Pyromancy Flame was also patched down, and before, if you had a fully upgraded Pyromancy Flame, the game was really easy. And to a point, Pyromancy's Flame definitely helps all the boss battles, but before they nerfed it, oh man. You see, Crater Combustion got nerfed in that you got half the stacks you did at one time. Not only that, but look at that boss poise. Yeah, look at that early game poise. Not only did the stacks of Great Combustion get nerfed in that you got half as many casts per stack in your attunement slots, but the overall damage of the Pyromancy's Flame was actually reduced, so made some of the bosses a lot harder to cheese, I think. Elite Knight Armor got patched so that it wasn't the end-all be-all of light to medium armor, and the Hollowed Soldier Shield got nerfed, and oh boy did it get nerfed. And this is all Prepare to Die. In fact, basically what made it so sad was, for me, because I made a lot of my characters around the Hollowed Soldier Shield because it was so good. I think it had 88 stability and it weighs practically nothing. So it had the stability of great shields without being a great shield, and it weighed practically nothing. Its elemental resistances kind of sucked, but those weren't as important as raw stability. In any case, it went on to get patched, and it's still a viable shield, but it just doesn't measure up to Crest Shield and some of the other more popular shields at this point, which was a good thing. Now I see a lot more variety in shields. It used to be you'd see Hollowed Soldier Shield 90% of the time unless someone had like a high-strength Great Shield build for fun. Now I see probably an even distribution of Crest Shields, Grass Crest Shields, White Knight Shield, Black Knight Shield. I'm not going to see any Eagle Shields anymore because Eagle Shield got nerfed when the Prepare to Die edition got released, which I think was unnecessary. I don't think the Eagle Shield was that great. Any shield that can't parry really isn't that exciting for PvP, and for player versus engine, really any shield will work. The higher the stability, the better. White Knight Shield was probably the best for PvE, but still, from always seeing Hollowed Soldier Shields, I still think I've moved up in the world where I see a large enough variety of shields that I alter my tactics based a little bit on what they wear. Grass Crest Shield, though, I mean, with proper preparation, there's really no point in having it. I like it for questing, and I do like it for PvP as well, but you could just buy 99 grasses and just buff yourself with the stamina regen if need be. I'm not crazy about that, though. I try not to buff in fights. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't mean like weapon buffs. I think weapon buffs are, you build your character around using a weapon buff, but I feel like using Divine Blessings and grasses and all sorts of stuff like that takes something away from the PvP. It's kind of like, it's too bad we couldn't establish a community gentleman's agreement where what if we all just agreed not to use grass? And don't be wrong, I don't think there's anything with using stamina grass. I think that's okay and stuff like that. But now there's the arena, so things are better. I tried to get on the Xbox the other day to play some PvP to upload, and the first thing I encountered was basically like 3 people in the forest, one of which was using some kind of glitch. And I'm familiar with the glitch, I just don't want to go about it on this channel, but someone was using the unlimited stamina glitch with the dragon's head and just breathing infinite fire at me, and he had 2 buddies with him, so even if I had done some sort of gimmicky defense like using a Havel shield to coat myself in armor, it wouldn't have mattered because this would have got the crap backstab out of me while I was blocking the wave of infinite fire. So kind of unfortunate really, but you know, what can you do? Apparently that stuff's been taken out in the Prepare to Die edition, which is pretty exciting, so hopefully in the near future PvP will be cleared up a little bit. And this is, by no means in this video, is not an exhaustive list of... You may have just felt my apartment shake and heard a lot of noise outside. That was because some moron is blasting his bass really, really loud that he wants his hearing to go deaf, and oh my god. I sound like an old man, don't I? These kids with their loud stereos. But really, been living on a college campus too long. Now everything's starting to annoy me. Anybody that's blasting music annoys me. And, you know, unless I'm the one blasting it, because my taste in music is just so awesome, guys, that, you know, it's not a big deal when I'm doing it. I mean, you know, who doesn't want to listen to the Cowboy Bebop OST at, you know, max volume on my speakers, you know? I just want my ears to believe when I'm listening to Cowboy Bebop. But alright, back to the commentary. So, now that we're leaving the Asylum, we've got a hold of the Crest Shield, the Titanite Slab, and we've traded with the Crow somewhat. Didn't trade everything I would have liked to trade, but I was just kind of in a rush, and it's boring to watch me trade with the Crow. Next up, we're going to go fight the Moonlight Butterfly, complete some forest farming, and just pretty much toy around in the forest and get all the items of merit there, and we'll even get some items not of merit. We will get the Eastern set there, which looks pretty sweet, and it has a purpose too. The gauntlets are really light, and they have 2 poise, so depending on your build, sometimes that 2 poise is actually really helpful. Not often, mind you, but every now and again, those gauntlets have come in useful to me. 90% of the time, the correct build is just to use Havel's gauntlets and Havel's greaves, because that's the cheapest way to get 53 poise. But characters were warped previously around the Darkwood Grain Ring, and now that that's been nerfed by the Prepare to Die edition, I think that we'll see a lot more variance in character builds. I pretty much think that's a guarantee. I haven't PvP'd a lot on Prepare to Die, obviously, but just realizing that the Darkwood Grain Ring no longer functions like it did pretty much ensures that there will be other options in ring choice, and even the Hornet's Ring was nerfed, so really excited to get into the PvP a little bit. I've heard that strength characters are kind of gimped in the arena, though, just due to the way the arena's set up and things like that, so I'll be testing that theory myself personally. This will be my first strength character I've ever really uploaded to YouTube. Previous characters were all elemental weapon based or faith based, things like that. Never just done a get big strength character. Probably wind up using the Great Club or the Giant Club, or I'm sorry, Large Club or the Great Club. I haven't really decided which yet. I like both. I've used both before Elemental. I've never used them with strength scaling, but it should work the same way, so we'll see what happens. Quality builds are fun. The last quality build I made was a combination of strength and dexterity. It was 45 dexterity and 30-some odd strength. Basically, it was a Great Lord's Greatsword build, which had some PvP action that didn't make it to YouTube yet because I was still in the process of completing my New Game Plus gameplay commentary, which I still will complete. That character will be completed just so I can fully upload the New Game Plus commentary and the gameplay stuff. Not only that, but it'll also give me an opportunity to post the new areas through New Game Plus with an adequately leveled character, and we'll just see how challenging it is. Because I've seen a lot of the Prepare to Die edition videos that have gone up to a point, including my own, that you're so level that it's not a big deal. So hopefully that, or you're so under level that it's challenging, basically because everything one-shots you. We'll see how it goes when you have a leveled character with, you know, the standard 50 plus vitality and good gear, and we'll just see how things shake out at that point. Pretty excited though. In my life right now, I'm in my last year of graduate school. Things are going good. I've about got my credit card paid off. I put myself into some pretty reasonable debt by buying a bunch of gameplay commentary equipment. Not to say I went and got crazy, but when you don't make a lot of money, buying anything can be kind of scary. And I basically maxed out my credit card to buy a new graphics card and some recording software and this, that, and the other thing. Some upgrades that I think have increased the production quality. And it was worth every cent, but I just kind of worry sometimes. But it's after working some extra hours at my other job and working for the college still, it's looking like I'll be able to get my credit card pay off and get out from under debt. And I don't think I'll ever do that again. Not that I was really in any serious trouble, but I guess to me, I'm just terrified of debt because I'm familiar with the cultural nuances of the United States, where it's a credit culture where basically everyone just maxes out their credit card to get the things that they want, and then they'll worry about paying for it later, if they ever pay for it. Like, everyone knows what I'm talking about, particularly in the United States with the revolving debt that families have, where they'll max out a credit card to buy something cool for themselves or their kids, and then they'll pay it off, or they'll pay off part of it, and then they'll be like, oh, I've got more credit on my credit card. Then they'll load up their credit card again, and they'll just keep basically like living like that. So there's always this rotating debt in their lives where they're basically losing money overall. And I just don't want to be that guy. I've never been that guy, but I'm kind of afraid that the things that I did recently were kind of akin to that. Where I was like, wow, I really want this gameplay commentary stuff now. I don't want to save for it. Let's go put it on the credit card. So I think I've learned a lesson there where thankfully nothing tragic had to happen, but I still learned how tempting it can be to get things when you want them and however you want them. So this is the Moonlight Butterfly fight, which has been featured on this channel and many others before, but basically if you come here with the Crest Shield, which you should have, this fight's pretty trivial. You can block all of his attacks with your Crest Shield actually, but in the interest of saving flasks and just to make sure you don't tap yourself out or anything like that, when he shoots the quick beams like that, hold up your shield and try to walk between them. Failing that, your shield will tank almost all of the damage. And when he uses the charged up green homing beam, the trick is to wait until they're close to you, then just roll in either direction, left or right, just like that. They don't track that well. Eventually, more attacks will be added to his repertoire once you've done enough damage to him, but those are actually easier to dodge than his initial things. And some other little Easter eggs about this fight. You can actually kill him without really even laying a hand on him. Eventually, the Moonlight Butterfly will just inexplicably die. I guess it gets tired of flying, but it's much, much, much quicker to kill him this way. But there used to be a glitch where the Moonlight Butterfly would fly off screen and just disappear, and you couldn't find him or fight him or kill him, and you thought you'd be stuck, and then inexplicably he would just die. And I believe that still happens, only instead of disappearing, he'll actually stay in the fight for X length of time, then he'll simply die due to time. At least I think that still works. If anyone has confirmed it no longer works, let me know. I found the Moonlight Butterfly to be one of those fights that was a little disappointing. I think it should have been harder, personally. And if you summon a Witch Beatrix, there is no fight. She'll just kill it on her own. But it's kind of neat to... oh, and he does the beam here. You can just roll over it like that. It's kind of a neat fight, though. I just think it should have been more challenging, because eventually you'll fight these as like standard respawning enemies in the Crystal Cave. And I think that's too bad. I think they should have made this like the mother of Moonlight Butterflies, because arguably this is the easiest boss in the game. You can fight it with practically no gear as long as you get its attack patterns down, which is true with most of the bosses, I suppose, but this one is by far easier. The reason we're fighting this boss at this time is slaying the Moonlight Butterfly will give us access to the Divine Ember, which is the big reason we're here. Or if you're a magic character, it'll allow you to get the Moonlight Butterfly horn when you got to Anor Londo, but that's not really that exciting. That's not like a in-game PvE weapon for most players. But getting the Divine Ember, however, will get us a Divine Weapon, and having access to a Divine Weapon will make it much easier to get the Elemental Weapon I keep alluding to in the next upload. Which is something I get a lot of requests about, like, hey dude, I'm trying to get a Chaos Weapon, how do I do that? So hopefully the next these videos that are coming out will answer a lot of those questions about how do I get this or that, or hopefully people can start deferring them to these this video series. We will get a little stuck in the forest when we get there. I'll caution everybody now that my run through the forest was not flawless. Ironically, one of the enemies I struggle with the most in all of Dark Souls, those little plant guys, the int dudes. I have so many deaths to them over the multiple playthroughs I've done for, whatever reason, in that I'll randomly get eaten by like an int and then I'll die. Like I won't. I guess I don't think it's actually called an int, but I call it an int from Lord of the Rings because I think that all my friends do, and it's just kind of become a thing for us. But I won't be paying attention to what I'm doing, or I'll get swarmed by like 5 or 6 of them, and I find it really hard to roll through their attack animation. I always roll too early, or I don't roll far enough, and because I'm still using a Drake sword, I can't kill them quickly, and I stupidly traded off my Pyromancy Flame, so I can't throw fireballs to light them on fire like an int. So in other words, I struggle and have problems with the ints. So whenever I go in the forest, I'm always like ultra cautious and probably being a little too scared. With the amount of poise this character has, I should probably just charge in and start pounding, but I tend to try to play it safe and try to chip them out, and as a result, it typically creates more problems than not. Now, for most players, I recommend actually leaving this item behind. It's not particularly valuable, and sometimes it's nice to PvP out in the woods in front of the forest. Just PvP at the path between the blacksmith and the bonfire, and once you pick up that item, these guys will start jumping out of their holes the minute you walk past the area, which is, that's kind of unfortunate because it's such a narrow area that if you ever need to retreat from an enemy or they start running from you, they can run back there and get some cover by the int guys. And I reiterate, if those guys eat you, it's a pretty serious problem. So we're going to open the forest now and show you guys how to do some forest farming. But before I do, we're going to quickly run back to the blacksmith and not only buy the crest to open the door, because I wanted that to be part of the commentary, but it's also going to give us an opportunity to make our first divine weapon so that we're ready for the catacombs here in the near future. This video, of course, ends with us in Blighttown after acquiring the Darkwood Grain Ring, so at that point we'll be poised to go get the necessary embers and actually go make that chaos weapon. And after that, we'll probably start making shorter uploads. These are lengthy uploads where we're sort of getting from, a fresh character, huge collections of items early on, and all of which are useful or could be useful to certain people, but things will start slowing down when there's just less items of worth to acquire. Unfortunately, like in most games, most of the items in the game are not particularly useful. Like, take my Lucerne upload series, which still gets a lot of scorn from the community with people trying to tell me that, Lucerne's not that bad, you're just not using it correctly. Like, come on, guys, let's be real. There are a lot of items that you can pretty much make any weapon or shield combination work on this game, or you can almost make anything work with skill in the Dark Souls community, which is something that makes Dark Souls so awesome. But at the flip side, it comes at a cost. You have to work much harder to make a Lucerne effective in PvP than to make, say, a Black Knight Great Axe. Now, the flip side of that is, if you have 2 players, one using the Black Knight Great Axe and one using the Lucerne, and they're of equal skill, the guy using the Lucerne obviously has an advantage. Kind of like in the Call of Duty series, where you can get your 52-0 games with really any gun, shotgun, machine gun, light machine gun, MP5, Magnum, whatever you want to do. I mean, there's a guy on YouTube that's got crazy scores and crazy things done with pretty much anything from any different game I've noticed. You can find all sorts of wild displays of skills on YouTube, but that doesn't mean it's practical for all players, and it certainly doesn't mean it's practical even for you watching. I consider myself pretty well read about Dark Souls, probably an above average PvPer, and definitely a player versus environment expert. I've played through this game on YouTube, 4 times now? This isn't a playthrough, but, played through these areas 4 or 5 times, posted on YouTube. My point is, I've got sort of more credentials than the random guy posted on YouTube that he's an expert, or posted on a forum, I'm an expert, I've beaten the entire game going hand to hand, things like that. But you can absolutely find some crazy people doing some crazy stuff on these games on YouTube, and with that, I'm not really about doing crazy challenges on YouTube, because that's a request I get sometimes. Like, why don't you do some sort of crazy challenge vid, like, entire game with a straight sword hilt, or no item playthrough, or something like that. And, well, I think I could do that. I don't really see the benefit in doing so, because it's not practical for most players, and really it's not practical for me. It's time consuming, and I feel like I've got nothing to prove. I think a lot of those challenges are geared at, proving something to the community, like look what I can do, stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with that. If you enjoy doing challenges, you enjoy sharing them, commentating them, more power to you. That's just not my thing. And I like to play through the game sort of realistically. As realistically as possible. I find that when I do anything in life, I try to be as pragmatic as I can be. So it's not pragmatic to abuse glitches and things like that in games to make them super easy, because at that point, there's no point in playing them. And with that said, there's no point in intentionally challenging myself so much that the game just becomes more of a nuisance to play than anything else. I can't stand games that become a nuisance, like with nuisance mechanics. Like in Demon's Souls, the world alignment system between good and evil, light and dark rather, that was a nuisance. It was a nuisance to get your world tendency to pure white or pure black. It just wasn't worth it. And this is, of course, the famous forced farming that's been in Dark Souls since the inception of the game, and I still think to this day remains the first choice of players, especially new ones, to level their character that are stuck, or to get souls to upgrade this, that, or the other thing. Of course, everything in the currency is souls, but not souls. Souls are not always used for levels. Like I either threw a ton of souls in a playthrough, and I usually don't clear the game above level 50 or 60 just because I upgrade Pyromancy's Flames all the way and all sorts of expensive stuff like this. But basically, you run into the forest and you pull all the NPCs, and you go stand here on this ledge, and their pathing causes them to run up the side of the cliff or up the side of the steps, then basically jump over the ledge and give you free experience. It's actually a good way to clear the forest without having to fight all these guys. Of course, if you are hoping to fight them the conventional way, which is kind of fun, it's good PvP training really to get used to parrying and stuff like that. A good trick is to pull them one at a time or in small patches. You don't want to fight all these guys at once, particularly not at a character like this who's leveled in the 30s and doesn't have the kind of weaponry you need to bring them down quick. Be warned, some of these guys have fog rings, which was another item that, when Dark Souls first came out, was outrageously strong. For those of you that don't know, before the first patch of Dark Souls, and once again, this is a pre-prepare to die edition patch. This is like, within the first couple months of the game's release, if I recall. The fog ring actually made it so you couldn't be locked onto. So, someone put on the fog ring and you just couldn't lock onto them at all. It'd be like fighting Priscilla when she goes invisible. You can't lock on. So all these guys in the forest here, you couldn't lock onto them, and any player that had a fog ring, you couldn't lock on. It was frustrating, let me tell you. It invalidated so many weapons. At the same time, I don't think the fog ring was as big of a problem as people made it out to be, in that the Hornet's ring didn't get nerfed for a long time, and the Hornet's ring is clearly outrageously strong. This is kind of similar. The fog ring was similar in that it was clearly too good, but there's other things that were quote-unquote too good to compete. So when you have several items that are too good, at least they compete against each other. It still invalidates the other 80% of the rings that were essentially useless. But in any case, when it came to the fog ring, really the best way to deal with it was to have a weapon that you could just swing around and hit people and hit stun them, and things you didn't need to lock on to use, which was unfortunate because my first character was a PvP spear guy. That's why I have bad memories about the Dragon Slayer spear. I had read really cool things about the Dragon Slayer spear, and so I started like a Dragon Slayer spear character, only to abandon it midway through, and I realized I couldn't actually lock on to anybody because they all had fog rings, and if they didn't have fog rings, they would put them on the minute I encountered somebody. Now, one thing that I do miss about the fog ring, actually, is because it's become so common for players to do like their 3v1 gangbang squads, that the fog ring actually made you really well positioned to fight those kind of guys, because gangbangers, as a rule, aren't particularly talented or skilled. That's why they're 3v1ing you. So if you were good, you could fight without a fog ring. Even if all three of the gangbangers had a fog ring, if you had the right kind of skill, the skill repertoire, the right weapons, the right preparation, you could easily beat up on fog ring people just by going for manual backstabs and, swinging your weapon around and stuff like that. Now, fighting 3v1 gangbangers is actually going to be harder than it's ever been, I think, because with the Hornet's Ring nerf, reducing the added backstab damage, in addition to the fog ring no longer being around, I just don't know what's going to be my, all super cheap PvP mode. Elemental weapons got nerfed, too. The old way I used to try to beat 3v1 gangbangers was, Chaos Rapier combined with Hornet's Ring, Ring of Fog, and just try to run behind people and get those clutch instant kill backstabs. And I didn't feel bad about it because it was, a 3v1 kind of scenario, or land parries and things like that. But now I can't really do it like that anymore. I'll just have to fight in the conventional ways. I also just have to get better. I've seen a lot of people beat 3v1 gangbang squads, even the good ones, and it'd be a good challenge for me to get better. It's such a rush when you win the 3v1s. That's the thing. It's just you lose so many. And since when I do my PvP, I always upload my losses as well as my wins. It's kind of sad I can't make I mean, I could, but as long as I'm showing all my fights, which has currently been my policy, I can't do let's kill 3v1 guys montage, because it would hide all the matches I lost before the wins. So I don't think that would be a very rewarding video, to watch me get killed by 3v1 people 5 or 10 times, invading Phantom Gank Squad that kills me like 12 times before I go in there and get some lucky backstabs and kill him. So that would be disappointing. I still swear that this area of the Force is one of the most dangerous areas in the game, just because there's so many different tree guys, and they do a lot of damage if they get that grab off on you. And, once you run out of flasks, if you go heal, all these guys come back along with the Force Covenant guys, so it's just kind of an inconvenient way to have to deal with things. And I'm wasting some heals. These are not some efficient heals. One advantage of coming here early on before you go to Blighttown and things like that, besides leveling and getting gear, is these guys do drop mosses, and those remove the poisons you're inevitably going to get infected with in Blighttown, because Blighttown, when you try to go through Blighttown without ever getting poisoned, it actually makes it take so long and so ineffective, it's not really worth your time. It's actually better to go into Blighttown with the correct gear, that being the Rusted Iron Ring, and if you want to, the Poison Resistance Ring and the Pyromancer set, and then just get poisoned, because you'll take so little poison damage that's really the easiest way to go about it. But this isn't a Blighttown commentary, of course. This is a let's gear your character. And I should note that some of the items we're grabbing in these videos, they're requested by people on YouTube, or finding them is something that people were interested in. They're not always particularly useful. Say, right now we're basically moving on getting Ferris's bow. That's not too terribly useful, in my opinion. Ferris's bow is a standard bow that requires a great deal of dexterity to use effectively. It has the longest range of any bow, and it's got great scaling. So if you're going to go like a dexterity bow build, that's great, but typically it's better just to make elemental bows and to use the composite bow, because the composite longbow will have the highest damage on a bow. Ferris just has more range and just normally isn't worth it, but because it is a unique bow and it is arguably one of the best bows, I felt it best to upload it into this gameplay commentary. I find it strange that a lot of people are like wanting to or requesting a full Archer playthrough. Full Archer playthroughs are really time consuming and long, because it's all about spacing and pelting enemies to death with arrows and doing all the things an Archer does. I guess it's just a way to play through the game that most people don't do, mainly because having to refill arrows is just annoying. That's why I wind up not playing an Archer in a lot of games. I just hate having to buy arrows. It almost feels like a necessary nuisance in games. Like, I was a Diablo 2 player, and when I played Diablo 2, I played an Amazon, and for a while at least, and I played all the characters eventually because I played so much Diablo 2, but when I played the Amazon, one thing that was always annoying to me was like, why do I have to buy these arrows? Like, for those of you that don't know, in Diablo 2, a quiver of arrows was like 20 gold, I think, and even the most basic of enemies dropped several hundred gold. So it's kind of like, why do I have to even buy these? Is this just for like the sake of roleplay? What is this about? Because clearly, acquiring arrows is not a big deal. Is it just want to inconvenience me and make me get arrows because I'm an Amazon? Like, just give me infinite arrows. Just make it built in. It's just something about RPGs always bothered me, was the fact that you had to buy arrows for your Archer, and usually arrows were super cheap, and like, it always made sense to me that you'd have like sweet arrows, like on Zelda you'd have like holy arrows, or on Dark Souls you have like Dragon Slayer arrows and stuff like that, like expensive arrows that you're paying for the privilege of using them because they're just that good, or they're so much better. But like basic arrows, I feel like should be unlimited and free just for the sake of convenience. Now I guess normally on RPGs and things like that you have to repair swords as well, but it's just not the way I want to do it. As for fighting the person with Ferris's bow here, not really a real challenge. It's just she likes to block a lot with her leather shield. She basically blocks, backs up, shoots arrows, and occasionally throws her hard R2 attack or her push attack. And either way, they're not that exciting. I'm trying to fight her without her jumping off the cliff. If she does jump off the cliff, you haven't missed any items. You can just start load and the items will appear on the ground. But I just like to show like full battles on the channel, so there's more challenge in keeping her from not jumping off the cliff, because she'll keep backing up the longer you push into her. And the easiest way to kill her quickly without getting her to jump off the cliff is, you know, have a shodel, have something that goes through the shield, Pyromancy's Flame, or of course just not to and at this point I've run out of flasks, and now I'm popping Humanity to stay in the fight. It's always a good emergency heal is to pop Humanity, because at any given time it's valuable to carry 10 Humanity with you to increase the drop rate of items. The reason I am not is because it's frustrating when you die and for whatever reason you fail to get to your bloodstain and you just lose like 10 Humanity. And Humanity is of course a renewable resource that you're never really out too much when you do lose it, but it's just frustrating to have to go farm Humanity, then pop Humanity to add it to your meter. One of the worst things ever is the Covenant ranking system where you give them Humanity. I think giving them Humanity is fine. I think the problem with the Humanity system that sucks is you can't like say give 10 at one time. You have to do that. Give Humanity, give Humanity, give Humanity. And, you know, if you're in like the Dark Moonblade Covenant, Dark Moon Covenant, and you're using Dark Moonblade, you have to give Gwendolyn, I think. Yeah, you have to give him 80 souvenirs of reprisal. That's 80 minutes alone of just clicking the give item. Probably a little less than that, but you get the idea where you just lose time in your life to lame things like that. Dark Souls, for such an amazing game, just has like these things in it that I find so annoying and so shocking the developers couldn't notice. Like the Covenant system in this game, for example, is kind of crappy. It's kind of broken. A lot of the Covenants don't function like you'd want them to do, and they're just not well facilitated. Or like the item system kind of sucks in that things don't stack. Like, so my item box, it's not, you know, I have 10 broken sword hilts. No, I have a sword hilt, another sword hilt, and then another sword hilt. And it just doesn't seem like a good way to do it. Like, why do these items not stack in my box? Is it like a roleplay thing? Is it just an oversight on the development? I'm not sure, but I really wish that they had done it like that, where things stack. That way I wouldn't have to clean out my item box and drop items on the ground just to get my character's inventories orderly. Of course, at this point, we're bringing down the last of the Force Covenant guards here, at which point we'll be able to join the Force Covenant. The reason we join the Force Covenant is you actually can't get the Darkwood Grain Ring without joining the Covenant, so it's one of those ultra-hidden items, and, you know, I think the Darkwood Grain Ring, even after, I think now it's balanced, but even after being balanced, I think it's one of the lamest items in the game. And I'll sort of elaborate that a little bit. Excuse me. Having a hard time talking. It's actually been a long day, guys. But to elaborate on why I think the Darkwood Grain Ring was kind of a stupid design choice was they could have just done such cooler stuff with stats. Like, for example, I had always thought that, like the Ninja Flip Ring, Darkwood Grain Ring, I always hoped that maybe instead of putting that on a ring or on an item, which just seems a little cliche to me, what if once you got a certain dexterity breakpoint, you got better rolls? So, like, you know, if dexterity gives you faster casting rate, which is pretty cool, but what if it also gave you, like, enhanced rolls? I mean, you keep the standard rolls that are already in the game, but if you hit, like, a 50 dexterity breakpoint, you get the Ninja Flip, which is a huge investment of dexterity, and it's past the point of diminishing returns on damage and things like that. But, you know, who really cares? I think that would be really neat if that's how it worked, that eventually you would unlock, you know, Ninja Flip capabilities. So, I don't know, or like, say, you could do one with each stat. So, take Strength. If you get a certain amount of Strength, then Strength already has the advantage of letting you carry heavier weapons and shields, but what if, as you got so much Strength, it would actually have less effect on your encumbrance? That would be pretty cool, I think. I don't think Vitality really needs a perk to go with it, because Vitality, you know, if you're going to do, like, these perk benefits for Strength and Dexterity, then say on, like, Vitality, you would just remove the diminishing returns on life. Or something like that. You have to do some balancing experiments, but you get what I'm saying. With Endurance, I think with Endurance, you would just remove the cap on Well, say with endurance, you would require, like, if you got enough endurance, you could wear unique sets of armor that you could only wear with enough endurance. I don't know, there's an idea. I mean, I'm just coming up with these as I go. Resistance, leveling resistance actually gives you inherent poise into your character. Instead of having to wear armor, you can just level resistance, and that gives you all the poise you might want. So on and so forth. I thought that that would have been really cool if they did something unique for each stat, and I think they could have balanced it and maybe added another layer to the character creation. I think already characters are diverse enough, particularly after they nerfed and buffed certain things throughout the game, but you can make it even more diverse if you can make huge differences in characters based on stat divergence. Because at this point, I feel like most characters level their primary damage stat, level for the magic they want to use, get 40 endurance and at least 50 vitality, and that's kind of the end of the character. Whereas, like with attunement, there actually comes a point where there is no point in leveling attunement. It literally does nothing. You get the max spell slots, and just attunement does nothing. So, I just think they could have done a little more with the stat development. I don't think it's like game breaking or it takes anything away from the character creation. I just think they could have made something that was already really good and actually made it better. At least those are my thoughts for it. Pretending to be a game developer, because I clearly am not. You'll see that the video cuts out here. There's an editing problem. Not really an editing problem so much as a recording problem where my recording software crashed midway through the recording at that point, so I had to pick up where I left off. But suffice it to say, I grabbed the enchanted ember from that box. I apologize for that, guys. It's kind of embarrassing, really. It sort of interrupts the flow of the video a little bit, but it did wind up cutting the video length down a little bit, which I think is a good thing, because this was a pretty long commentary to cover various odds and ends items. You'll see me pop that soul for no particular reason other than it was distracting. So, through this gaze, of course, the battle with Sif the Wolf, the Great Wolf, rather. Not a particularly difficult fight, but I tend to play it a little cautiously, as you'll see here in a moment. But this is also where you get the Hornet's Ring, which, once again, is a great weapon to pick up early game for player versus player, really for a lot of different purposes. Because now that wearing the Darkwood Grain Ring isn't really a requirement to have, like, an optimal or nigh optimal character build, you can wear a Hornet's Ring instead. Most people are already wearing a Hornet's Ring for PvP, but you don't have to, and you don't have to fight the wolf at all for the Hornet's Ring to be effective. I'm just fighting the boss now, so I won't have to come back later. This is one of those fights that always sort of confused me, not in the way it handles or the difficulty. Fighting a giant wolf kind of goes the way I thought it would, but people must really love dogs and wolves and things of the four-legged fluffy variety. And what I mean by that is, when Dark Souls first launched, there was a lot of rumors about being able to save this dog's life, spare Sif, save Sif, ally with Sif, things like that. And of course, all of these turned out to be untrue. There is no way to ally with Sif. The pendant does not allow that, etc., etc. Nothing like that. So I don't get why everyone was so like hot and heavy for trying to, trying to save this wolf. Don't get me wrong, he's cute and he's awesome. I get all that, but like Ornstein and Smough are also awesome, and you don't hear people trying to talk about trying to like save their lives. I guess something to do with the fact that there seems something innocent about a dog, maybe. I don't know, but the way I see it is, I examine a very large sword that I clearly cannot pick up or carry, and this dog decides he's going to arbitrarily attack me because I'm trespassing. It seems a little cocky to me. It'd be like you hear about private property law in the United States, and then people arbitrarily decide to shoot somebody for trespassing their property and excessive force. The law didn't allow for that. It's kind of like that. So I examined your sword, so without warning you decided to engage me in all-out Mortal Kombat, and not only that, but when I beat you down and you start limping, everybody apparently feels bad for Sif because, oh man, he's limping, he's hurt, why can't we spare him? I don't know, I didn't see him retreating, he just kind of stayed in the battle, so I was just shocked. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's cute and all that, but I didn't really have any ethical issue with bringing this dog down. I didn't have any, no problem whatsoever putting him down. Maybe I'm just a heartless man. Or maybe it's because I'm a cat fan. I prefer cats. Like, for example, the Cat Covenant. Oh man, I wish I could talk more with the Cat Covenant leader, with that NPC. The Force Covenant that's, of course reports to the cat. That cat is awesome, dude. Like, that's what I really wish they could have done more with some of the Covenants. Once again, love Dark Souls. Not even complaining, just saying, imagine if the Covenant system gave you like a unique quest line with unique rewards and stuff like that. And it kind of already does, but most of those quests and most of those rewards are half-baked and or useless. So that was kind of disappointing for me. It seems like the so-called faction system in Dark Souls just wasn't really thought out very well, and it hasn't received any patches to make it cooler. Like, I think I've been grave lorded like maybe like 10 times in my entire life, and most of the time I was never actually able to fight the Phantom anyway, the person who cursed my world. So just, regrets and disappointments. I bet the developers share some of these too. I know the developers, not that I could cite the article, but I remember reading an article where the developer himself said that he had some regrets about how things were done. I think that's natural. I don't make games, but I imagine if I did design video games, I can't imagine being that different than when I put out commentaries. Sometimes when I rewatch commentaries that are, say, a week or a month old, I sometimes wish I talked about this or did this differently. And what I always tell myself is it kind of harkens back to that old expression, like, if I could go back and do it all again, I don't think I would. Like, even if I could go back with all the wisdom I have now, I'm not convinced I'd have a better result or I wouldn't make some of the same mistakes. I just think that it wasn't destiny, but I think to a point, I have inherent personality flaws that sometimes lead to poor decisions. And I think much like game design, sometimes I think developers have inherent preferences or personality traits that lead them to do things in games that the general consumer may not like or that may not resonate well with the audience. Mistakes are made. But I think, Dark Souls is obviously a 10 out of 10 game. I mean, you could say 9 out of 10 based on the fact that there were problems and things like that, but to a point, I expect problems with any game I buy. There is no perfect game, at least, well, other than Xenogears. Of course, Xenogears was the perfect game ever made. Never mind the kind of half-baked combat system and the over-narrated half of Disc 2. Never mind any of that. It is the perfect game. Xenogears forever. And I suppose I should mention strategies for fighting Sif early game don't really change late game. Basically, don't let him block a lot if you're not confident, and don't let him hit you with a double spin. If he starts to do the double spin where he'll hold the sword and spin in 2 long circles, that will essentially break your guard and then run you over. So as long as you don't let that happen, you can block pretty much all of his attacks without incident. This is not even a high stability shield, and as you can see, he's not chipping at my stamina significantly. So for those of us interested in some quick souls or just not wanting to come back and fight Sif later, you can definitely do it now with a Drake's Sword with minimal effort, provided you have a 100% physical block shield with adequate stability. There's really nothing to it. His size is more intimidating than his actual skills. As long as you're blocking 90% of the time, it's not a problem. Right there, of course, he basically dead angles me, where if I had backed up when he charged, that wouldn't have happened, but I walked into it, so it kind of struck me at an angle I wasn't guarding, essentially. And there's the attack I mentioned that can actually take you out pretty handily, is that double spin. That's the only time he's ever really killed me is when I get stuck in that. And when you fight these bosses, I think players too often are afraid to die. Just die, Part of playing the Soul series of games, especially until you get the handle for all the enemy attacks and things, is just dying. Dying over and over is actually one of my favorite parts about the Soul series. What I've seen reviewers call the frustration factor, or the too difficult for the general audience factor. I don't think this game is that hard. And maybe that's because I've been gaming since like the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo, but back in like the Super Nintendo days, games were hard. Like some of them, like some of the old Mega Man games, those things are hard and they're not forgiving in the least. So there was a gentleman, what I believe to be a gentleman, who came onto my channel and was basically saying that the boss fight with the Asylum demon, where you fight him with the sword hilt or with your fists, and that fight is impossible and the game is broken. And I'm not going to go into the varieties, but basically someone came on and essentially said, because Dark Souls doesn't tell me how to do everything, the game is flawed. So in other words, if developers don't give us clear instruction on every phase of the game, it's a bad game. It's basically what that person was asserting. And that, I think that's what's actually wrong with game design. It's not giving the player the chance to learn, not giving the player the chance to innovate. No, I don't think games should be so confusing and unthought out that they're just inaccessible and unplayable, but that is clearly not the case with the Soul series. I'm just always amazed, and I'm not that I'm calling people casuals or something. I'm not all-time best gamer ever. I'm just kind of distraught with how people aren't looking for a challenge in their games. And I admit that too much of a good thing is bad, but Dark Souls is clearly not hard enough that it can't be done. There are people that have beaten Dark Souls in record time. People have beaten Dark Souls with crap items. Just about every challenge is done. I've seen someone do the Four Kings with, bow only. So clearly, if you're making use of everything in this game, it's just really not that hard. And you'll see that was another edited moment there where I saved time on the run out of there, the run back to the blacksmith to make the divine weapon and all that stuff. I edited that out in this name of time because this video has already been, pretty lengthy, and I just wanted to cut it down a little bit, both to preserve the hard drive space on my computer, reduce my upload time. Basically, I like to cut out travel whenever I can, for a variety of reasons. So I'd like to reiterate again, I'd like to thank everyone for watching these long commentaries, and you'll see more editing here. We're going down to Blighttown at this point to acquire the we're going to acquire another Firekeeper's Soul to upgrade the flask again, because upgrading the Firekeeper's Soul, upgrading your flask is actually one of the most useful things you can do in the game. It's something I think people often overlook, but the quicker you get your flask buffed up, the easier it will be to survive encounters with difficult enemies or to grind through long areas. So I highly advocate getting the flask upgraded as quickly as possible, and we're going to go back down to New Londo to take the back door into Blighttown, both to acquire the Crimson Armor, the flask, to get poised to grab some of the more high-end items down there, and to farm stones and stuff. There's already a video on the channel for Dark Souls about how to farm stones then in Blighttown, but Blighttown is actually the best location in the game to get green Titanite chunks and large Tantanite chunks and things like that. Is it Titanite or Tantanite? I don't remember. I think it's Titanite. Maybe I'm wrong. I think it is Tantanite. I don't know. Someone tell me in the comments, because I'll probably say it wrong 100 times anyway, but just so I know for my own mind if it's pronounced Titanite or Tantanite. I know you can find NPCs that'll pronounce it correctly for you, but it's just not coming to me. I have a hard time recalling the correct pronunciation for things, as some of the veterans of this channel know. Pronunciation of some of the in-game items or weapons, not always up to snuff. But up ahead here, these guys are the giant ogres I alluded to in other videos that will actually drop large clubs if killed enough times. They have the chance of dropping a large club, and the large club eye is my bet for probably best strength weapon in the game. I don't see a lot of people using it, but I advocate it is the best strength weapon in the game, at least moveset wise, because the arc on the attacks are fantastic. Great Club is also an excellent choice, which you find down in Blighttown. It won't be featured in this video, it'll be featured in the next video in the series, where I'll show how to get some elemental weapons like I previously discussed, and I'll show some farming of some quick, cool strength weapons and some good candidates for early upgrades, because you want to pick a weapon that has a good moveset. People ask me what's the best weapon and things like that. I still get messages asking me, what is the best weapon, what should I use, and normally other people on the channel respond to those comments for me, but I'd like to read it once again. You have to pick a weapon that has a solid moveset that, most importantly, that you're comfortable with, but not only what you're comfortable with, just as what's good. I mean, for example, I'm actually pretty comfortable with, some of like the spear moveset, some of the bad spears. I'm comfortable with their movesets, and they're just bad. There are certain weapons that even if you're comfortable with them, they just have a bad moveset, and sometimes you just have to accept them. You can still use them, but you're going to be gimped in PvP, i.e., if you use Lucerin for a whole playthrough, it's never going to be a good PvP weapon. Can you still use it? Absolutely. I mean, people use claws in PvP, for Christ's sakes. You can use really bad weapons in PvP. You just have to accept that you're going to make it more challenging for yourself. So if you're new to the world of PvP and you're looking for a good starter weapon, don't be afraid to use the quote-unquote noob or gimped or, noob hammers or something like that. Don't be afraid to go use the Black Knight Great Axe. Don't be afraid to use an elemental rapier to practice your backstabbing. Don't let other people determine how you play Dark Souls. That's something that always blew my mind is, the gangbanging phantoms who have the 3-man phantom invader killer squads, they have no problem ignoring all the hate and just 3v1ing invading phantoms, and good for them. I mean, I hate them, but good for them. And, I'm kind of the same way. If I want to use the overpowered stuff, that's kind of my business. Now, I use a wide variety of weapons just because I'm kind of burned out on a lot of them, so I've used so many, but that doesn't mean I feel bad when I use a good weapon. It's almost people sometimes feel guilty when they use weapons that are quote unquote good. Don't be ashamed to use good stuff. That's kind of a vow I'm trying to make with the new Call of Duty. I will be playing Black Ops 2 when it releases. I'm actually really excited for Call of Duty Black Ops 2. Yeah, I'm a COD fan. I know all the hater comments, but once again, I'm not going to apologize for what I like, and I've always liked the Black Ops series. I like the Treyarch series of Call of Duty games. I actually don't like the Infinity Ward series of games. And with that, I'm really excited for Black Ops 2, and I'm going to try to actually consider using some weapons that are good. I think one of the reasons Modern Warfare 3 was ruined for me, despite it just being an outright bad game, but was the fact that I just couldn't stand, I just couldn't stand always losing to the best guns. I never used some of the better guns. I mean, you don't have to use the best weapon. I mean, there is no best weapon in Dark Souls, but I think players should consider, use the good stuff sometimes too. I mean, use the bad stuff, but use the good stuff. Like, I have a Moonlight Greatsword character, and I love it. And I had to homeward bone out there because I unfortunately got myself poisoned like a boss, and toxic rather, and I could have popped a green to heal it, but I actually, not a green, I'm sorry, a moss to heal it, but I didn't, and I just homeward boned out. I was out of flask anyway, and the blow dart archers do not respawn, so as long as you kill enough of them, it's usually worth it to homeward bone out or just take a death and come back, because they're not respawning, and since you're taking the shortcut, it really doesn't take a particularly long time to get down here, so that's just kind of my thing with it. For those of you looking for because there won't be a complete Blighttown walkthrough on my videos, at least not on this series of videos, rather, because this is not a walkthrough series of videos. This is a Let's Gear Your Character series of walkthroughs. So certain items and areas may be missed in these. They're not complete walkthroughs, is basically what I'm saying. By repeating myself over and over, I'm hoping everybody gets the message. And thankfully, my channel already does feature full walkthroughs of the entire game, both on New Game and most of New Game Plus. So you can jump on those and check it out. I actually have a separate video dedicated to Blighttown just because so many people were struggling with the area. I went ahead and put out a Blighttown only sort of walkthrough. As always on these videos, I'd like to ask, and especially on these long ones, if you take the time to watch all of it or you find some use out of it, then clearly you enjoy my commentary style or you found something redeeming about the video. And if so, I'm always trying to make these videos better, particularly with the Dark Souls series, because I've been at it for so long, and the most frequent feedback I get is more PvP, and that's great, but I'm not releasing all PvP content. There's so many people just releasing all PvP content for Dark Souls, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, I want to bring something new. I don't mind bringing PvP content as well, but at the same time, I'd like to bring something sort of new to the fold. And basically what I'm saying for is, please give me some feedback on these videos. If you have something you want to suggest or something you like that doesn't involve yo dog, do PvP more, please share it. I'd like to know. And also, if somebody could let me know in the comments, I've heard that those mosquitoes, the giant Blighttown mosquitoes that I hate so much, I've been told if you kill them enough, they actually stop respawning. And I don't know if that's true, but I would be willing to believe it, because that sounds like a Dark Souls thing to do. If you kill it enough, it stops coming back, but we're not just going to outright tell you that. So if somebody would let me know, that would be terrific if anyone knows the answer. I've heard it takes like 15 to 20 kills per hive and they stop spawning, and I looked online for the answer and I couldn't find anything definitive, so I'm willing to go to someone's word of mouth. If someone's going to come on here and tell me, I've killed them X number of times, they stopped spawning, I'd be willing to trust that. Also, fair warning, once you take that Firekeeper soul, if you didn't kill Lautrec previously, then he's going to kill the Firekeeper, so Firelink Shrine is going to become non-operational for a while, which is actually a bit of a problem for this commentary series, because I try to start most of my starting points of these videos out of Firelink Shrine so people will know how to follow me and know how to follow exactly where I'm going in these videos. But it's okay, I'll probably still just start at Firelink Shrine that's burned out and useless, so I probably won't make it to Anor Londo to bring the Firekeeper back to life, at least not for quite some time in these video commentaries, so it's kind of unfortunate that I won't have my Firelink Shrine for a long, long time, but oh well, I probably should have just killed Knight Lautrec, but there's something about that quest line that I'm never willing to kill him. I always want to bring the Firekeeper back to life and go through the whole quest line. I think I talked about this in other videos where I'm a bit of a perfectionist, where in Dark Souls I gotta have 4 sets of 1 armor, and I'll still go to get the other set. I'll still go out of my way to get the 5th set of armor. I mean, sometimes for weapons it makes sense because the weapon's valuable enough that having multiple instances of it are great, but some useless stuff I just go and get over and over again because I'm just such a perfectionist and I just can't get over it. I actually am more inclined to cut corners on some of these commentaries because I know that they're time sensitive, but man, when I'm playing by myself, I'm like, oh man, I should clearly take the time to kill every enemy in this area in the off chance it might drop a soft humanity for me, and just stuff like that, and odd personality quirks. But up ahead you'll find Shiva, who we spoke to previously in the Forest, and you had to talk to Shiva in the Forest to make him spawn here, in case I didn't mention that previously, but I think that much was probably assumed because I did it in the video. But before you kill Shiva and his guard to get the ninja flip ring, there are some interesting items here I think certain players should consider buying. Dexterity characters should definitely buy a washing pole because they're hard to find. Buying a second shotel is usually a good idea. You will find another shotel in Sen's Fortress, but buying a second one is usually worth your time. And there's some other weapons here that you could farm fairly easily, but if you're interested in getting one right on the spot, most of these weapons are good and or have a place in the game. I don't buy everything I should have bought here because I was short on cash and I just didn't care about all of it. I usually buy one of that ring just to have it. I've really never equipped it, but it's fun to carry. And here's the Silent Ninja. Now, this guy has the ring, and there's a lot of different ways to bring these guys down, but whatever you do, it's really important that you don't fail or die, because if you die, they will leave Blighttown, and you'll have to go through a very long quest chain to bring them back. Not a quest chain, but a very long sequence of events to bring them back. It's generally not worth your time. Better just to come back and get the ring in New Game Plus if you screw this up. So, thankfully, they're not hard, and some of the tricks to beat them are you can lure the mosquitoes over here to get them poisoned. You don't have to engage them both at the same time like I did. I kind of screwed that up, but if you do engage them both at the same time, I advise pulling them into the swamp because their poison meters will fill and they'll both start dying to poison. At that point, you can just kind of cowardly run from them and let the poison do the work. If you can get a backstab with the Drake Sword, it's usually enough to bring them near death instantly. Or you can farm a better weapon, level up your Pyromancy's Flame. There's a lot of ways to guarantee you do this based on how much skill you have and what you think you need. But definitely, if you can, prioritize killing the ninja and staying alive. Staying alive is your utmost priority. If you think you're going to lose the fight and you're just going to die, my advice is run back up the water wheel and equip some humanity, remove poison, whatever you need to do, and come back down and fight again. If you have to, shoot him to death with a bow. There's a lot of different methods to make sure this happens, but the point is just don't lose. Anyway, here, once Shiva goes down with an epic death line, we can grab the stuff from his body, and that'll be the end of the video. Alright guys, thanks for watching. I appreciate your time sticking with me through these long video series, looking for suggestions on how to make it better. And I'll see everyone next time.